Good day, strategy gamers, and welcome back to episode 24 of our Let's Play series of Stalingrad to Berlin. In this episode, we'll be doing the usual air war phase, and then we'll be doing the first half of our ground phase, which I think should be pretty exciting, although not quite as exciting as episode 25, when we're going to be looking at the consequences of where we left off in the previous episode in the capture of Rostov. Still, a lot has happened in the northern front that we have along the line, and I think we're going to have plenty of action to cover in this episode. We're going to begin, as we always do, by taking a look at the weather to see if this awful Russian winter that has persisted with blizzards and blizzards is finally alleviating so we can do some air actions. So we're going to hop on over to the weather screen, and we see that for February 11th, our current turn, we have blizzards moving in towards the front line and everywhere else is snowfall. When we look at the 7-day forecast, we see that that only gets worse. I've kind of, maybe I shouldn't, but I've in a sense given up on trying to read these weather reports to predict what might come 14 days from now, which makes sense as it is not my profession, but I am encouraged by seeing that from February 11th to the February 18th, down here it seems like there's some type of system that's moving that is projecting clear weather, which sounds absolutely lovely, and wish it would make its way up towards us. On the ground, we see that this of course means we have snow and heavy snow conditions behind our lines. So it's going to still have an impact on our operations. So with that, I've gone through and done the usual air steps off camera, so that way we don't have to watch me click through all those, and we're just going to execute our air phase where really there shouldn't be anything of note that happens, is we're just trying to rest our air armies and save up those airframes for offensives and defensive operations in the summer, when I think the front line will be much more lively due to better weather conditions and road conditions. So this is going through simulating day 3, day 4, etc., etc. We saw in the previous episode that there was quite a bit of German activity in terms of counterattacks up near our push towards Riga, so we're going to have a lot to cover there. But we will, of course, start near Leningrad to see what needs to be done, if anything, to put pressure on the north of their front. So right off the bat, we'll switch over to the mode to see past battles that have occurred, right? So they're highlighted on the map. Nothing up here near Leningrad. We scroll down, like I said, there was some action down here by our push towards Riga. So there's nothing to recap near Leningrad. I think they moved back some units here, and overall this line has stayed very consistently set in place, which is fine. We took our objective, right, of clearing this path, these rail lines to Leningrad. That was really kind of one of our priorities. It's only going to help if we can eventually push a couple hexes further and get this line that goes through Pushkin and then down over towards Leibun and Chudovo. Right, so as we can get that rail line, it really helps reinforce the city as well. And of course, we have a rail repair unit up here who is diligently working on trying to repair these lines. So you see the next turn, this line here is going to be repaired. And yellow means these rail networks, as a refresher, these are all intact, but they're not connected to an existing rail network. So I'm not certain, but I'm hoping that there's actually a bridge represented between these two hexes for the rail line. And if there is, I'm hoping that means that next turn, when this is repaired, that we then have all of these rail lines back connected to the network. I think that would be very good news for us. So, have to wait another turn to see on that. We have the same dilemma that we've had in previous turns of this hex right here. Is it worth pushing into that hex? The concern, of course, is that you then find yourself where you can be counterattacked by the 23rd Panzer, this infantry division, and this 377th Infantry Division. I think we might take a look and see, okay, if we take this rifle corps and move that up, right? So that gives us a defensive value of 18, which I think is plenty to fend off any advance from the 23rd Panzer. And then I think we'll also take the 10th Rifle Division. We'll move them up as well. And we'll take the 198th Rifle Division and move them over. And then we're just going to take each of these two units to just kind of reinforce the two hexes that we just weakened a little, right? So we have plenty of defensive value in all of these. But what I want to do is I want to force them to say, hey, we're going to move a unit to block this hex, because if I can get this hex, it then might start to cut off some of their forces here, or might put pressure on them. So that's what I'm going to try to do. I would really like to also move up into this hex, because then it makes it even more difficult for this 23rd Panzer to decide, if I am going to try a counterattack, do I just leave myself open then, because now I'm surrounded by 3 hexes that has been moved up here. I think the reason I'm not going to move here, though, is because you have down here the 5th Panzer Division, which has a CV value for attack of 21. And that in combination with the 88th Infantry, this Mountain Division, and the 23rd Panzer, I think it's just asking for trouble anything we put into this hex. And it's important to note as well that currently the Soviets have this hex, right? Even though we don't have a unit there, it's technically our hex because we were the last to have control over it, and they have not tried to push into it. So I think everything here is looking okay. This guards unit, if I remember correctly, had gotten pushed back from this hex a while ago. Let's just take a look here. Yes, their TOE isn't terribly bad. It just looks like the issue is that they don't have any combat prep. Yeah, but are they missing anything specific? Yes, there's a couple here, like artillery and AA machine gun, which doesn't do too much right now. And heavy mortars is probably pretty notable there. So we're just going to send this unit a little closer to the HQ here. We also took something from the 8th Army, and you're a little far from your HQ, but I think that's going to be okay. You have high fatigue, so I don't really want to move you anymore. We could maybe reassign them to the 55th Army, though. So let's take a look here. 55th Army. They have enough command points to support you, whereas the 8th Army, you're currently at capacity. So I think we might assign you to the 55th Army. Let me go here and do that. There we go. And then they can just be part of this defensive line that is protecting Leningrad proper, right? Moving a little further down, we had these two units in reserve, and they're just building up their combat prep. A note, too, that I have not mentioned at all in the series, but I probably should have, is with these weather conditions, the winter conditions specifically, whenever possible, having your units in a town or fortification that is 2 or greater, it actually really helps stop them from losing men to attrition. So to sickness, to severe frostbite, and these types of things, trench foot, what have you, by having them in a city hex or in a hex that has a fortification value of 2 or higher, it really helps prevent that attrition. And I wanted to look here at the fortification level, because if this wasn't 2, what I was going to do is maybe move them up here to this hex, just so that way they don't suffer as much from attrition. But I think they're probably fine as is. Let's see. I think all of this right here we're probably just going to keep as is, given just how strong some of these units are. I will take, though, I think the 376 Rifle Division and move them up just to help reinforce the line. They've recovered from their fatigue and they have good combat prep, so I think it's good to move them back. Here I might take like the 71st Rifle Division, and I might swap them out here with the 320. No, we're going to let the 327th sit in reserve for another turn. We do have this 18th Rifle Division that is back here, and I'm going to move them up to this hex to help reinforce them. And the added benefit is they were in a hex where they were getting higher attrition due to weather conditions, but now because it's fortification level 2 or higher, they'll be a little more protected from those elements. And all the way down this line, they're just too dug in for us to do anything, so we're going to continue holding exactly as we are. If this continues for too much longer, we might look at, say, maybe taking one of these armies, like the 52nd Army or something like that, maybe building up their strength a little, because it looks like they only have 3 divisions attached to them, and maybe pivoting them south of Lake Ilmen, which is where we're trying to have our breakout. On to Lake Ilmen, the area of good news. If you recall, we had pushed up into 2 different hexes in the previous turn to try to force them to say, okay, which one are you going to attack? And we managed to we held this crucial road right here in town, which another hex or 2 we're going to be able to break through. And if we can break through to, say, Shminsk, then it's just going to really put pressure on this entire northern front to say, well, now we have to widen our front line to encompass all of this. Whereas right now we have such a huge numerical advantage, but we can't apply it because of the geography, right? Normally this would be 3-4 hexes that they need to defend, that they don't have to because we're on the other side of the lake. So these guys, if we can get them breaking through here, it's going to allow us to apply our numerical advantage that we do have. So to that note, we want to look for opportunities to press here before they get too dug in, while at the same time not necessarily overextending ourselves. So I want to take a look and see, these are some pretty high combat value units. If we can swap them out, yes, like we're going to move back this 200th Rifle Division, right? We're going to move them off the line. And we're instead going to bring up this 16th Guards. So now when we take all of these, we're looking at 19 to 6. I think we can do this one more time. We're going to take the 22nd Guard. Was that the one we just moved? I think it is. Shoot. So by moving it lowered its combat prep so much. Okay, understood. So the question is, do we go here? 19 to 6. It is pretty close to 3 to 1. Just a hair under. Or do we use them to try to break through here in this hex? I think we keep pushing on the north side. So we're going to go ahead and execute this attack. Looks like we captured it. Yep, they retreat it. Good news. Good news. And now we're going to take these 2 units, the 375th and the 253rd, and we're going to move them up. And we might have... Don't want to exhaust any of these units either, though. Ah, the 369th Rifle. Nope, that's going to push you to your limit, too. Gosh darn it. I'd really like to get them more reinforcements. What can we do here? I don't think it's going to be worth pushing them that hard. Defensive value of these guys right now is about 8. Which, unless they bring in something very quickly like a Panzer unit, we should be able to hold. So let's make sure that we push them out of this hex too then, right? Let's make sure that's a priority. So just as is, we're looking at 17 to 6. Do we have any stronger unit that can be brought up? Those are 4s. Here we have a 2. So if we take a 4 down, yeah, so we're going to move back this rifle brigade. And we're going to bring up, do we do the 274th, I'm thinking? It has a higher combat prep, which it will lose a little when it moves. Yeah, let's do that. We're going to attack here, so that's 19 to 6. We should be successful again, 3 to 1. They held. Why do I say these things? Why do I jinx myself like that? That's incredible. Desperation time, if we did another 2-to-1, let's see. They retreated. Okay. So we took some pretty heavy losses between the two fights, but we got them out of the hex. And that is so crucially important, because now we can move up fresh units. Just like I was talking about, now we can start looking at applying our numerical advantage that we have here along the front line. And now, because there's no zone of control, I can actually move up this 369th Rifle Division without exhausting it. So this is just all such great news. This 28th Guards, we can also move up. And now I want to see, do we actually have enough that we can push them back, maybe? Probably not. We might want to just hold. Defensive value of this hex is going to be about 10. Here, we're looking at about 12. Okay, so feeling pretty good about that. And I don't think they're going to have enough force to try to counterattack with any real urgency here. So it looks like, because we had taken that hex a turn ago, I think this is working out exactly as we'd expected. The next big one is, if we take this hex right here, it then means they have to defend 1, 2, 3 hexes, right? Which stretches their line. And my bet, my gut says they're going to take units from right here and move them down to try to do that. And if they do that, I think it opens us up for a possibility maybe even to push north of Lake Ilmen. If not, if they do reinforce it with units from the north, again, we use our numerical advantage and we keep pushing through. So either way, I think it's a win-win for us. Right here, we do have this unit that only has defensive value of 8 defending their line, but since the hex positions are such, we don't have enough combat value to attack and push through there. So we're going to have to leave that as is. We've got these units that are kind of in the rear building up, and that's fine, because there is quite a bit of fatigue with some of these guys. And that's another thing I should have looked at, is I want to make sure the fatigue doesn't go too high. And we're actually in a really good position with a lot of these units, so not worried there. I think we might look for some of these, though, to make sure that they are far enough near the front, so that way we don't have to worry about them being able to make it to the front line when we need them. And I'm going to move these guys off the HQ because they've recovered their combat prep. They have no fatigue. Okay. In these two armies, I'm actually going to move to this hex, I think. This rifle division can come up. Again, just trying to get everyone a little closer to the front. This is just such an overwhelming force we've got here. I don't see any way that we won't break through very effectively, so this is good news. Down here, we're a little more thin, and again, that's to plan, right? This is kind of what we expected and wanted, because we know, given the terrain here of heavy dense woods, swamps, and no rail lines, that we would be severely limited in our ability to supply these units. We didn't want to put our concentration of forces here. I do want to look real quick. Yeah, so our rail line has been pretty well maintained up to this point, so going 2 or 3 hexes is not that bad. Good news. Probably the only opportunity right here would be if we did want to move into this hex. But I don't think we're going to, because you're a little tight on supplies, it looks like. Yeah, general supplies are only 40% for you. And here, fatigue's not high, but it's not great. You'd be at half fatigue if we did push. And considering that they have this infantry division, I would rather you just stay and maintain your defensive composure. So we're probably going to leave you just as you are. Back here, this rifle brigade probably got pushed back in a counterattack, and I missed it in the previous episode, so we're going to... out of the two of you, you're worse off, so we're going to bring you to the HQ unit. And then you... I'd actually start moving you up towards the front. I'm going to bring you there. Here they have completely pulled back, but there was also counterattacks, right? So we did occupy these 2 hexes in the previous turn. So first, let's take a look here. And in their first attack, they were successful. They attacked with 14,000 men against our 12,000. They didn't really have any armor. We had some armor. And just we were beaten due to a higher combat value, right? That's what happened here. They attacked with infantry division, mountain infantry division, the Rodfahr infantry regiment, and the Luftwaffe field corps, right? So they simply had probably better organization than we did in the counterattack, and we had the mechanized and this rifle brigade, which is probably the one that I just moved back. And the mechanized brigade. Looks like 2 of them routed, actually, but I'm not seeing them on the map. It's interesting. Right here, though, was where there was a pretty serious battle. So we're going to take a look at this, and we're going to go into the details for this one. We're going to look at ground losses. So here, the Totenkopf SS Panzergrenadier Division attacked in the first wave. And I talked a lot about this unit because that's this one right here. Because it was sitting there with a very high combat value. They were fully rested, moved up to the front line, kind of the best of the best they had that we would have to fight against. And they attacked with their 15,000 men against our 20,000. They lost 10 guns, 346 men, 21 tanks, armored fighting vehicles, excuse me. We lost 200 men, 5 guns, and 12 armored fighting vehicles. But boy, was I excited when I saw this. Not only did they lose a substantial amount of armor, 2-to-1 almost in armor losses, they lost 2 Tigers. They were just completely destroyed. 2. A further 2 were damaged. Tigers. Right? So they started with 15. Now they only have 13, and 2 of them are damaged. And all we'd lost were T-34s. If you had asked me if I'd trade T-34s 2-to-1 for a Tiger, hell yeah. 3-to-1? Absolutely. 4-to-1? You betcha. So I think that was a great outcome of this first battle, and that we held, right? That we were successful in holding off this attack. Their second attack we also held, and this time they threw the 23rd Panzer Division at us. And again, they focused with a heavier armor element, 110 armored fighting vehicles in total. But they did not make it nearly as far as the SS Totenkopf Panzergrenadier Division. They got held at 267 instead of, I think it was 85 or something like that. And we lost this time 20 armored fighting vehicles. And here we started to lose some of our light tanks. And they lost Panzer IIIs, Panzer IV, they lost 1 of, right? And then the third battle. This is where they brought it all together. They attacked with the Totenkopf SS Panzergrenadier Division, the 22nd Panzer Division, and the 23rd Panzer Division. So 3 Panzer Divisions attacked our 1 hex here, which were 2 rifle divisions and a rifle brigade. We really should not have stood any chance of holding this against those combined arms. But what makes me so happy, again, looking at this, the top line numbers, we were outnumbered 2-to-1, but our number of men lost, we didn't lose men at a 2-to-1 ratio. They lost 1,000, we lost 1,500. I'm okay with that. Guns, they lost 20, we lost 66, so that's 3-to-1. That's not as great. But look at this, armored fighting vehicles. They had 324, forgive me for just simplifying this, tanks, attacking our 60. So imagine that in a movie or in a highlight reel or something like that. 324 tanks deployed against 57. And our losses were nearly 1-to-1. Sure, they almost eliminated all of our forces, but it's not like we had tank corps here. These are just rifle divisions with tank brigades attached, right? It's not like we've lost our core armored elements. They lost, though, 40 armor from their 3 panzer divisions they have on this front line. And look at these results. A lot of Panzer IIIs lost, sure, but they also lost another Tiger and had another 2 damaged. So that means next time they use the SS Totenkopf Panzergrenadier Division, they're only going to have 8 Tigers available unless they repair the 4 that they would now have damaged, if I'm following the math right. So they're at 50% of their Tiger element, and all of it was because of 2 rifle divisions and a rifle brigade with a couple of tank brigades attached. I'll take that trade all day long. I am absolutely over the moon about that. And our losses, again, mo mostly light tanks and 17 T-34s. We'll build a couple hundred T-34s every week. Fine. You can't build 15 Tigers every week. This is perfectly acceptable losses in my mind. So I'm actually ecstatic that they did that counterattack and we got pushed out of these two axes. Because now you look at this front line. This unit, let's switch back here. This unit, yeah, it is the Totenkopfestes Panzergrenadier Division. Had something like a 30 or somewhere thereabouts combat value for attack. Now it's 3.8. Now I can move up and just hammer it because they've exhausted themselves with 3 consecutive counterattacks with their armor elements here. This is great news for us because that was kind of one of the big stumbling blocks, this and the other 2 Panzer divisions, from us being able to break through. Had they held the line, we would have had to devote significantly more resources to try to break through. If you recall 2 episodes ago, I actually had a tone of worry in my voice about, wow, they've really built up this defensive line. Maybe we won't make it to our objective at Dritsa, which still remains our objective, right? Now we can push here through the north, and look at this. All they have is just this 1 infantry division, this 1 Panzer division, and we've got 2 armies worth of units that can push against them. So let's go do it. These are actually the guys that I think they were beating up on. Let me just double check that real quick. So the 100th, 178th, 158th. Yes. So this stack is what they had pushed back on. So what we're going to do is say, okay, well, you 2 rifle divisions, look how fresh you are. You're going to move up here. Look at this. Look how nice and easy this is, right? And then this stack, yeah, we're actually going to push you back up to the front. I'm sorry, guys. Because I don't think they're going to counterattack here, and this might force them actually to retreat now, facing down a total of 6 ground elements. Yeah. Yeah, this is going great. I'm very happy with all of this. We'll then move these guys. We'll start kind of splitting them up to reinforce these 2 hexes. I think I want to be a little stronger up here, so we're going to take you there. Okay. So the next turn, we're in a great position now to try to push through, right? Down here, this is where, yeah, and this is the 12th Panzer Division. So this Panzer Division was not involved in those attacks up here. It's the 22nd and 23rd, if I remember correctly. So they must have retreated back a couple of hexes to try to recover. And again, this is where air recon would have been so useful to us to be able to see where they went. Did they move north? Did they move south? Etc. But let's focus our attention now on trying to break through to Adritsa. The plan was to kind of use this 5th Army and the tank corps elements that are moving up and these 2 northern armies to kind of, on each flank, right, try to encircle this core group that's defending, right, and put pressure on them from the sides. Now, though, looking at this, they've really kind of stretched themselves thin. I think I'm going to take this forward element, this stack, try to push through here, because just on paper it looks like 4-1. And then right here, we're also going to try to push through. So let's take these guys. Their fatigue is not great, but I want to press the advantage. Well, they haven't reinforced this yet, so we're going to go ahead and attack. That's 4-1. So they retreated. Didn't take really any measurable losses there. And I think we might... we don't have enough to move up there. And none of you have enough. That's not that great. What if we take your 2 stacks and go here? That's 2.5-1. Is that worth it, maybe? What if we take one of you and switch you out to the back? To the rear, I should say. Move you up. And then can we do the same thing here? Yeah, like this rifle brigade, right? Let's get you out of there. And then let's move up instead, this rifle corps. So now when we attack, there we go. It's almost 4-1. They rout it. Excellent. Now we take this stack, which should be 4-1. Yeah. They held. I guess it wasn't technically 4-1. Let's try again. Yeah, we're going to keep pushing. Not even close. We didn't even get close to them. That was probably a mistake on my part. I got too aggressive there, because now your fatigues are very high on all three of these units. Same here. Okay. Live and learn. All right. Yeah, we're putting a lot of pressure here, and I think we're going to get to Adritsa in about 2 more turns. Now we have the 5th Army. Gee, sorry, real quick. 3rd Shock Army. You 2 units are recovering. You're actually in great condition, so I'm going to move you up. So let's first move up this rifle division. I should have used them to come up too. We're going to move you up as well. Now if we attack 5.6, we're going to do it. Alright. So we were successful. Oh, my, sorry, I misclicked on the minimap there. There we go. We have open ground in front of us. Defensive value here is, call it 3, which should be enough to prevent any counterattack here, especially since the 5th Army we're going to have also advance. So let's see if we just take you an attack. That's more than enough. They retreated. Now we're going to take... you 2. You... Gonna move you up. If we attack again, I don't like those odds that much. Tank cores. Time to ring up the tank cores. So let's move you here. And we have you 3. And we're going to have you go up to this town here. It's taking a while to get up there. And their fatigue's going to be a little high, so they'll have to sit in the rear for a little bit, but that's okay. I could have done rail transport with these guys, but honestly, we need the supply so badly up here. I did not want to use up our rail capacity, because it is so important that we're getting supply to Veliki Luki. And actually looking at that, let's look at the depots. Yeah, so at the end of that rail line here is where just so much of the supply is hitting these units. So that is crucial that we maintain that. Even if it means these armor elements are going to have to sit in the rear and rest. But ideally, the way things are going, we can have them sitting here in the town. We'll probably capture Adritsa in about 2 turns. And if they're just sitting there for 2 or 3 turns, these guys are going to be pretty serious competition on the front line to help our push towards Riga. So I think that'll work out fine. Looking to the south here a little more, they've started to actually pull back on this line. So remember, we had just been in a complete holding pattern here. I feel like this is new. I feel like these are a little stronger than they were historically. And they certainly still don't have enough even to push through here. They could attack here and break through, I suppose, but that's it. And if they did, what did they accomplish? Nothing, I don't think. So that's fine. Leave them as is. But here I wanted to take these units and move them up to this hex. There we go. And defensive value is plenty to hold off against this. Now we can put pressure here, which just opens it up for the 5th Army to continue moving south here towards Adritsa. This is looking fantastic, guys. So happy with how all of this is looking. Now we get to the border north of Smolensk and everything that we see here. And again, I think we've got some opportunity to really press. The one problem is a lot of this has stayed static. So you see they've really been able to build up some of their fortification levels. So 2 hexes really call out to me that we can maybe use these forces to try to push through here or here. And it sounds great to do that, but I worry because when you take off the ships here, there's so many hexes here that are actually like heavy woods or even light woods. And considering we have these mechanized cores, I'm not certain this is the path we want them to take. I mean, ideally, we'd actually take the 3 mechanized elements that we have and move them down here towards these roads. But the question is, I think we're going to take this stack here, and we're going to have them attack this unit, which is more than 3 to 1, and they rout it. Okay, so that was a success. Now if we take these guys and attack here, that's 3 to 1. They retreat it. Okay. So let's move you up. Defense value 3.7. Yeah, they don't have enough to counterattack right now. If we take all of you, let's just move up the rifle division now. I think we will move all of you up. Defensive value, yeah, it's plenty because of the Stalin Volunteer Rifle Corps. They're not going to be able to counterattack with this unit. And then we're just going to continue this entire push. We're going to move these guys up, right? We're going to have them attack here, which is just going to crush them. Okay. In this entire stack, I'm going to move up. And then I'm going to bring in this rifle division. And we will take... I don't want to do the 134th, so I think we're going to take... What's the hex like? Heavy wood and heavy wood. My goodness. I think we'll take the mechanized core and move them over. Okay. Defensive value here, plenty. Yeah, they're not going to be able to break through there. So now this unit has a choice. Wait a minute. Let me look at something. Can I make it here with any of these units? No, I can't. This unit now has a choice for the Germans, right? This 251st Infantry Division. It can retreat and lose all of its defensive value because it's moving through zone of control, it's losing its fortification level, etc., opening us up to be able to counterattack them. Or it can stay and become encircled and have no hope of making it back to Berlin. I'm fine with either option, frankly. Down here, I think we're going to continue the advance because they've really pulled back their forces. So we're going to take this entire stack and move them up to these crossroads. And I think we might go here and say, no, we're not going to press where they have 4. We're going to press where they have 2. I'm going to take these guys and attack. So they retreat it. If we take these guys and attack, not even going to do a deliberate attack, we're going to do a hasty attack. They retreat it. Now when we take these, we can push them back too. So all along the front, we've pushed them back here. I want to be careful because it looks like you're part of that army element, which is a little further south. The 110th, you're fine. We're going to move you up. And what do we have here? That's interesting, isn't it? Do we have anything that could get up there and help them? We have this cavalry. If we take both of you, that's 1 to 1. No, that's going to be enough, though. Might just keep you there. You have a value of 9 for defense. Should be enough. Oh my gosh. Viewers, why did you not tell me? Look at this fatigue level. Holy crap. That's scary. I wish I had noticed that. Are you guys the same? Oh, you're all okay. I'm gonna take this stack. And we're gonna move you here. And we're gonna have you attack this HQ. There we go. So we captured the 4th Army Depot as well. Well, that's nice, isn't it? Look how nice that is. You can push through more easily. Right there. They route it. Makes sense. Don't know if we want all of you to move up. I think we're going to take this. No. We're going to take this rifle division and move you here. And that gets you closer to your core army element. We're also going to take this rifle brigade. And then we'll take the strongest of you, which is the 113th Rifle Division, and move you up. Okay. Wow, we are really breaking through here. This is great news. Back here, I think we had some elements that were in reserve recovering. The 17th Rifle I'm going to move up to... I think I'm going to move you here to continue the pressure on Smolensk proper. This artillery unit can come up towards the front lines. Not going to be in position, but you'll be closer. This rifle division, I have no freaking clue what you're doing. You must have been retreated and I missed you last turn. So we're going to... That's an interesting thought, isn't it? We move you here. Let's do that. And then any of you go there. I know the tank corps can. But the fatigue! Damn it! Why didn't I remember that? Oh. Damn it. I wish I hadn't done that. Added absolutely nothing to their defensive value. Artillery, we don't need to move there, but we can move the artillery here. There we go, so now you're in position. Okay. What about you? Yeah, we're gonna bring you up there. And then I also think we might have to look at... You're gonna come up too. Have to look at moving up this HQ unit. Because we're starting to get units out of range. And then we'll make a stack here too with the 20th Army. Alright. Okay. Depot was there. Maybe it would have been better to keep them on the depot. I don't know. Here we're going to move you to the town. Okay. Now we get to this portion. And they haven't really pulled back as much here, right? They still have some moderate fortification. So I think we're going to wait until next turn to attack this unit, but I'm betting they retreat anyways. And let's just take a look at these stacks, see if there's any fatigue concerns, since I'm so oblivious to that most of the time. There's not. If we take all of you and attack here, that's overwhelming. And they retreated. Okay. Good. Now we take you from the reserve, move you up to take that hex. And fatigue got a little high on some of you guys there. That rifle division, you can come up here and help, I suppose. Although you have no fatigue and combat prep's fine, your TOE is shit. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're at 50%. So we want you to sit on the HQ unit. Yeah, that's your HQ unit. And we want you to go into refit status. Because you need men and supplies. Okay. Railroad repair continues here, it looks like. Okay, so this guy's making his way north to connect these two lines. So that will help a lot when we get that done. And then it looks like if we can repair this one, that might open up all of these too. So that's good news. It's going well. Further down, this would probably be the only opportunity to attack. How's our fatigue on these guys? You're all fine. Yeah, so let's go ahead and see what that looks like. 23 to 8, so it's almost 4 to 1. I'm not going to. They've got a fortification level of 3. We're going to wait another turn there. That's fine. taking that hex does not change anything materially for us, so that's okay. Looking down here, boy, that's a tempting target, isn't it? We don't quite have enough, and they could just so easily counterattack with these 2 infantry divisions if we did. So I think we're going to leave all of this just as it is. Moving over, though, again, tempting. What does it look like? We go here. 15 to 5, 3 to 1. We're going to wait. What's your deal? Depleted. Okay, well, let's get you on the HQ and set you to refit. Rifle division with 600 men. What happened to you? You've had 5 wins and 1 losses. You are heroes. But your TOE is... Wow. I think it might make more sense to send you to the reserve box, actually. Yeah. Because that's pretty bad. Let's look at this. I already looked at that. Let's actually take a look just to the Wikipedia. Let's see if there's anything notable about this one in real life. So, the 322nd Rifle Division was a standard Red Army rifle division during World War II. It is most notable for liberating Auschwitz as part of the 60th Army on January 27, 1945. In the course of the Vistula Oder offensive, prior to this, the division also distinguished itself during the second liberation of Zhytomyr on the last day of 1943. It received further distinctions for its service in Western Ukraine and in Poland. Wow. That's pretty cool. We're going to leave you there and refit, I think. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Over here, did they attack here? I can't remember. They did. Yeah, sorry, let's do a quick recap here. So, it looks like they pushed us back here, but we held for a total of 4 attacks. So the first one was pretty simple, nothing notable to call out. The second one, it looks like they added some additional units. We again held. They took 5 to 1 losses. Wow, that's a little surprising. Here we held again. They continued to increase the amount of units they're throwing at us. And in the fourth one, oh, so that's what happened to the 322nd Rifle Division. How did that... I wonder... Did they break from morale or something? Is that what it was? Was it the average morale? Average fatigue was 77. That might have something to do with it. But I'm just curious because those are just such stunning losses. Ground combat. Were they all... or ground losses I should look at. So for us... So I think they all surrendered, most of these units. No, they were destroyed while retreating. Yeah. Was it something to do with their general, perhaps? Of the army? Or their leader, excuse me. So, let's look at you. General-Lieutenant Ivan Bagraman. You don't have particularly bad stats, and again, that was your first loss you've ever had. I think it might have been a fatigue thing that contributed to it, and it was just so overwhelming, their attack. Might have to look into that one a little more. Over here, they also pushed through and we had to retreat. The second one, Yeah, they were observing the Hex Luftwaffe. Nothing too notable to call out there other than they really threw a lot at us. And they also had ground support, it looks like. Just a little curious. And they pulled back. Wait, sorry, it was the 111th and the 342nd Rifle Division. So where are they? So that's the 342nd. The 111th went here? Yes, it did. Okay. So I think we might have you guys just hold where you are. I don't like the HQs right there, though. Do we maybe take one of you and move you over? Like the 194th Rifle Division. Thinking that might make sense. Let's do that. And then the fatigue is not terribly high on these guys that retreated, so we're going to put you right back up to the front. So now we have a defensive value there of about 7, which should be enough to handle anything they currently have on the front line. We were getting a little distracted there with all of our moves. We weren't focusing on possible counterattacks. Here I think we might push through this Luftwaffe Field Division just to keep them out of our hair a little. We're just going to have the 217th Rifle Division attack. So they retreated. I'm hopeful that in the next turn or two we can actually use our combined forces in these two hexes to push back this unit. Because I think this was the basis of their attack, this the 57th Infantry Division. Here, we don't quite have enough to break through, I don't think, so we're going to leave that be. We don't want to move up into this. Did we get pushed out of that hex? No, we didn't. So we'd consciously left that as is. I think that makes sense. We control the town, but we're going to move into it with these two units. Defensive value is plenty to hold off what they have. And now because we're in the town, we're going to take less attrition from it being in the middle of a blizzard with our men just standing in their foxholes. Here around Orel, looks like a lot happened. So let's go through the actions around Orel and our possible counterattacks, and then we'll call the episode to a close. So right off the bat, this has been our forward element all along, and they have held out turn after turn, and it looks like they did so again. They were halted at 122. They actually took almost 2-to-1 losses in men. Guns 4-to-1. Armored elements were close to 1-to-1. Let's see how that went out. It was Stugs, okay. Most of our losses were T-34s. Okay, the second attack is a little bit more balanced because it looks like they attacked and got halted at 875, and their leader probably did a check and said, hey, this isn't going to work, let's just pull back. So losses were more minimal on the second attack. Over here, they did push us out into from these two hexes. The first one we held, but we took heavy armor losses. They were pretty successful in that attack overall. And then in the second, they simply had too much thrown at us. So we had 1 rout and 2 retreats. So that's not so great. And then over here, we just had 2 retreats. As again, they threw the 3rd Panzer Division, the 18th Motorized, the 335th Infantry, the 18th Panzer, and something there that I can't quite make out. So it was quite a force that had attacked us there. Total of 10 units. That does include battalions and brigades and all that stuff, but okay. Yeah, so that reshaped the line a little. The question now, though, is how do we continue trying to put pressure on Orel? And when we look at it, right, we have to cross that river to attack Orel proper. We actually don't have great reconnaissance on the town, but we do know they have about a 200 defensive value. And we've talked about this. Our only real option is probably going to be to surround Orel and cut them off, forcing them, hopefully, to retreat. I think a new element that's at play here, though, is that they've brought in this 13th Panzer Division. This looks like a motorized division. and over here the Das Reich SS Panzergrenadier Division to put pressure on this side of our front line. So that's a concern that we should have of how do we deal with that and continue with Orel. If we remember, though, to our strategic objectives, Orel is not one of them, right? We can win this game, we can win our campaign, we can continue our advance without having to throw tens of thousands of men at Orel, right? So I think for now, what we're going to do is just play things pretty passive here. We're going to take some of these divisions, get them a little focused, and reestablish a line here. That's fine just as it is. Defensive value there probably wouldn't be enough to hold them back, but I don't want to take anything off here because we do have enough to defend against that Panzer division. So these guys need to stay right where they are. But over here we have 2 units where defensive value is just 1, and we have plenty of forces that can counterattack. So I think we might take the opportunity to do so. So we're going to take this stack and attack. They retreat it. Right, so inflicting good losses on them. Here, I think we're just going to take the 9th Guards and have them attack. Because we don't need to add fatigue to these units, right? And we're just going to do a hasty attack. They retreat it. Okay, so it increased our fatigue a little, but we pushed back some units here. And I don't think we can really move into either of these. That's okay, because they have that zone of control around that hex. Okay. But one of the important reasons, too, that we're going to keep doing that as it comes up is we don't want them to build up fortification levels here that make it more difficult for us to go around the city, right? So we took some fatigue here with the 9th Guards. It was at, I think, 8, went up to 42 with the attack. So that's not ideal, but we still have plenty in terms of defensive value to hold this hex. Right, we're sitting at 41. And currently they have on the front here 16 worth of offensive combat value. So I think that's going to wrap it up with Orel, and with that, it's going to wrap up this particular episode. I just want to say, as always, thank you so much for watching the video and the series. Your support has been amazing. I hope you've been able to enjoy learning this game with me. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please be sure to leave in the comments section. There has been some awesome suggestions that have been coming into the comments section, and I'm a little behind on replying to them, but just please know I've been reading them all. I will get to address back to each of you. And some of you had some invaluable tips that I want to make sure I add to future episodes. And that is one of the whole points of this whole series, right? Is as a community trying to help each other learn the game and make knowledge more accessible for anyone who wants to pick up the game and learn some of its intricacies. So with that, have yourselves a great day, strategy gamers. Bye now.